Let me introduce you to Sam. Sam lives in his own home with his mum, his dad, his sister all live close by, which means he has the love of his family close at hand and on a daily basis. Sam is cheeky, he is incredibly playful, loves to pull funny faces, and he likes to give lots and lots of big squeezy hugs. He's a talented and master of all arts and craft. He loves his trampoline, his football, he loves his bikes. And aside from all of those wonderful things, Sam does have a diagnosis of learning disability, autism, behaviours of concern, and is supported 3-to-1. But as you can see, Sam is so much more. Sam spent most of his childhood living in the family home, living a rich and fulfilling life. However, his teenage years became a little bit more difficult, which ended up meaning that Sam could no longer be supported at home by his family. This separation to the day has been really impactful on both Sam and his family. But yet family's resilience still remains, and their own frustrations around the lack of appropriate support placements for Sam, the increasing use of things like medication to manage behaviours of concern, which were increasing towards himself and others, led them to make a really huge decision for their son. The day before Sam's 18th birthday, he moved into his forever home, a home bought by his family and placed in trust for him. It was this vision for Sam's future that led the family to contact MacIntyre, because they realised and had reflected really quite openly and honestly that they needed a level of support and expertise that they as family members, parents, sisters could not provide for Sam. And that's where our journey began. First step on any PBS journey, including Sam's, is where we build rapport. Rapport with the individual, rapport with families, and rapport with their teams. This approach around rapport really helps build relationships and trust between everybody involved. And for Sam's team, that was a team that was going through huge changes. For Sam, it was defining relationships that had been based historically on aversive and physical interventions in the past. And for a family who were taking a venture into the known and trusting a provider again with their son's care and support. At that early stage of building those rapports, we undertook several assessments with Sam. Most importantly, a comprehensive behavioural functional assessment, which allowed us to unpick and understand the motivating factors around Sam's behaviour and what function they served for him, which would actually prove the foundations for all our future interventions for Sam. From these very early stages of building rapport, we then moved on to what we think about as step 2 in our PBS journey, and that is to build a capable environment for that individual that we are supporting. This capable environment for Sam meant that after some initial training and we worked alongside his team, we coached and we role modelled, that we were able to introduce intensive interactions to help build and mend some of those relationships between staff and Sam. We were able to introduce the active support model and approach, meaning that Sam was far more fully engaged and active within his own everyday life. We also set about creating a functional response to behaviours of concern based on our early assessments, meaning that we could respond a lot earlier across different functions and across different contexts for Sam, meaning that we could decrease the intensity of those behaviours that staff were experiencing and that Sam was having to use to get his needs met. All this means so far in Sam's journey, in the last 22 months, we have significantly been able to reduce the number of restraints. Typically before MacIntyre came on board, Sam was being restrained in his own home 3 times a week. We have now been amazingly restraint free for 7 whole months. And also, just as important, Sam has seen 2 medication reductions over the last 12 months, a time when we've all been working through a global pandemic and all that means for the social care sector and for everybody else, which has seen so many different outcomes for Sam in terms of his health. He's losing weight, he's far more active and even far more cheeky on top of all that too. What this means for Sam's journey is that his team, his family and MacIntyre are on just the early stages of that journey. For Sam and for every one of us, you know, life is a journey and quite often it's destination unknown. But what we are looking for Sam is looking towards the future, making sure that our aim is for Sam to be able to develop the skills and the behaviours to be able to self-determine a life that makes sense to him.